The night shift at Riverside Hospital was always quiet, but tonight felt different. Maya Rodriguez had been working as a nurse for 8 years, and she could sense when something was about to change. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as she checked her watch, 11:47 p.m. Her shift had just begun, but already she felt that familiar tension in the air. That's when she first saw Dr. Elena Vasquez walking down the hallway. Elena was new to the hospital, having transferred from a big city medical center just 2 weeks ago. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had seen everything. But there was something else about her, something that made people step aside when she passed. Maya had heard whispers about the new doctor. The other nurses talked in hushed voices during break time. They said she was brilliant, that her patients recovered faster than anyone expected. But they also said working with her felt strange, like something was pulling at you from the inside. "Another car accident coming in," announced Tom, the head nurse, as he hung up the phone. "Multiple injuries. Dr. Vasquez will be leading the surgery." Maya grabbed her supplies and headed to the emergency room. The ambulance arrived within minutes, sirens wailing. A young man was rushed in, his face pale and his breathing shallow. His injuries looked severe, the kind that usually meant hours of surgery, with no guarantee of success. Dr. Vasquez appeared almost instantly, her hands already moving to examine the patient. "We need to get him to surgery now," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "Maya, you're with me." This was the first time Maya would work directly with the mysterious new doctor. As they rushed the patient to the operating room, she noticed something odd. The other nurses who had been standing nearby suddenly looked tired, as if they had been working for hours instead of just starting their shift. In the operating room, Dr. Vasquez moved like she was dancing. Every cut was precise, every movement deliberate. Maya had assisted in hundreds of surgeries, but she had never seen anything like this. The doctor's hands seemed to know exactly where to go, as if she could see inside the patient's body. "Pass me the clamp," Dr. Vasquez said without looking up. Maya reached for the instrument, and for a moment, their fingers touched. The contact lasted only a second, but Maya felt something she couldn't describe, like electricity running through her veins, but warm and powerful. The doctor's head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, she just stared at Maya, her mouth slightly open. Then she shook her head and went back to work. But Maya noticed that her hands were trembling slightly. The surgery lasted 3 hours. The patient, who should have died from his injuries, not only survived but began showing signs of recovery that amazed everyone in the room. His vital signs improved rapidly, and his wounds seemed to be healing faster than normal. But as the surgery ended, Maya noticed something troubling. The other medical staff who had been in the room looked exhausted. Dr. Peterson, who had been assisting, was so tired he could barely stand. The anesthesiologist had dark circles under his eyes, and 2 of the nurses had to sit down to catch their breath. "Great work, everyone," Dr. Vasquez said, but her voice sounded different now, stronger, more energetic, while everyone else looked drained. She seemed refreshed, as if the surgery had given her energy instead of taking it away. Maya felt fine. In fact, she felt better than fine. Despite the long surgery and the stress of the emergency, she felt alert and strong. Her usual back pain from years of nursing was gone, and her mind felt clearer than it had in months over. The next few days, Maya couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. She watched Dr. Vasquez from a distance, noticing patterns that made her uncomfortable. After every surgery, the doctor looked more vibrant, while her colleagues looked increasingly tired. Some of the nurses had started calling in sick more often, and a few had even requested transfers to other departments. Maya decided to do some research. She quietly asked questions and discovered that wherever Dr. Vasquez had worked before, similar things had happened. Medical staff would become mysteriously ill. Some would quit unexpectedly, and a few had even been hospitalized for exhaustion and depression. But the patients always recovered. Dr. Vasquez had the best success rate of any surgeon in the hospital's history. People who should have died walked out healthy. Families who had prepared for the worst instead celebrated miraculous recoveries. Maya found herself both fascinated and frightened. She began volunteering for surgeries with Dr. Vasquez, telling herself she was just curious. But the truth was, she felt amazing after working with the doctor. Each time their hands touched during procedures, she felt that same surge of energy, that same sense of strength and clarity. The other staff members began to notice her unusual enthusiasm for working with Dr. Vasquez. "Be careful," warned Linda, an older nurse who had been at the hospital for 20 years. "I've seen 3 nurses transfer out because of her. They all said the same thing, that working with her made them feel empty inside, like something was being taken from them." Maya wanted to dismiss these concerns, but she couldn't ignore what she was seeing. During a routine procedure, she watched as Dr. Vasquez accidentally brushed against a young medical student. The student immediately became dizzy and had to leave the room. Later, Maya found him in the break room, looking pale and confused. "I don't know what happened," he said, holding his head in his hands. "I suddenly felt like all my energy was gone. I've never felt anything like it." That night, Maya decided to confront Dr. Vasquez directly. She found her in the hospital's small garden, sitting alone on a bench under the stars. The doctor looked up as Maya approached, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "You've been watching me," Dr. Vasquez said finally. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Maya admitted. "I've been trying to understand what's happening. Why everyone gets sick around you, but I don't." Dr. Vasquez sighed deeply. "You're different," she said quietly. "In all my years of practice, I've never met anyone like you. Everyone else, they get weaker when they're near me, but you get stronger." "What are you talking about?" Maya asked, though part of her already knew the answer would change everything. Dr. Vasquez looked at her with eyes full of pain and regret. "I have a condition, Maya. It's not something they teach about in medical school. When I touch people, I take something from them. I don't mean to, but I can't control it. It's how I heal patients so well. I absorb their pain, their illness, their trauma. But that energy has to come from somewhere." Maya felt her heart racing. "You mean you're taking it from the staff, from everyone around me?" Dr. Vasquez whispered. "I've been living with this curse for 20 years. I became a surgeon because I thought I could use it to help people, but I've hurt so many innocent people in the process. You're the first person who's ever been immune to it, the first person who's ever gotten stronger instead of weaker." The two women sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of this revelation settling between them. Maya realized that her life had just changed forever, and she had no idea what that meant for her future. Maya woke up the next morning feeling like she had been reborn. The sunlight streaming through her bedroom window seemed brighter, the colors more vivid. She stretched and realized something incredible. The chronic pain in her shoulders that had bothered her for years was completely gone. Not just better, but gone entirely. She stood up and felt a surge of energy she hadn't experienced since she was a teenager. Her mind felt sharp and clear, like fog had been lifted from her thoughts. Even her reflection in the bathroom mirror looked different. Her skin seemed to glow, and there was a brightness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. At first, Maya tried to convince herself it was just a good night's sleep. Maybe the adrenaline from the surgery had somehow reset her system. But as the days passed, the feeling only grew stronger. She had more energy than she knew what to do with. Her coworkers started commenting on how refreshed she looked, how she seemed to bounce through her shifts without getting tired. Meanwhile, Dr. Vasquez began showing up everywhere Maya worked. If Maya was assigned to the cardiac unit, suddenly Dr. Vasquez needed to consult on a heart patient. If Maya was helping in pediatrics, Dr. Vasquez would volunteer for the children's surgeries. It seemed like every time Maya turned around, the doctor was there. Other nurses began to notice the pattern. During lunch breaks, they would whisper about how Dr. Vasquez seemed obsessed with working alongside Maya. Some joked that the doctor had developed a crush, but Maya sensed something deeper and more complex was happening. The breaking point came during a routine gallbladder surgery. Maya was handing instruments to Dr. Vasquez when their hands touched again. This time, The sensation was even stronger, like warm electricity flowing between them. Maya felt a rush of power that made her feel invincible, while Dr. Vasquez closed her eyes and took a deep breath, as if she was drinking in the contact. "We need to talk," Dr. Vasquez whispered, her voice barely audible over the beeping of the monitors. "Tonight, after your shift." Maya spent the rest of the day in a daze. She kept replaying the moment in her mind, trying to understand what was happening to her. The other staff members in the surgery had looked exhausted afterward, but Maya felt like she could run a marathon. Something was definitely not normal about this situation. That evening, Maya found Dr. Vasquez waiting in the empty break room. The doctor looked nervous, pacing back and forth with her hands clasped behind her back. When Maya entered, Dr. Vasquez stopped and turned to face her. "I need to tell you something that's going to sound impossible," Dr. Vasquez began. "But I need you to listen with an open mind." Maya sat down in one of the plastic chairs, her heart pounding. "I'm listening." Dr. Vasquez took a deep breath. "I discovered something about myself when I was in medical school. During my first year, I was working late in the anatomy lab when I accidentally cut myself on a scalpel. My lab partner, a guy named David, grabbed my hand to help stop the bleeding. Within seconds, the cut healed completely. But David collapsed." Maya felt a chill run down her spine, but she remained silent. "At first, I thought it was just stress or lack of sleep," Dr. Vasquez continued. "But it kept happening. Anyone who had prolonged physical contact with me would become weak, tired, sometimes even sick. But I would feel stronger, more energetic. It was like I was somehow taking their life force and making it my own." The doctor sat down across from Maya, her hands trembling slightly. "I spent years trying to understand what was happening to me. I saw doctors, therapists, even consulted with people who claimed to understand supernatural phenomena. Nobody could explain it, but I couldn't deny what I was experiencing." Maya found her voice. "How long has this been going on?" 20 years, Dr. Vasquez replied. 20 years of accidentally hurting people just by being near them. I became a surgeon because I thought I could channel this ability into something positive. When I operate, I can absorb the patient's pain and trauma, which helps them heal faster. But the energy has to come from somewhere, from the medical staff, Maya said. "The pieces finally falling into place, from everyone around me," Dr. Vasquez confirmed. "I've watched colleagues become depressed, get sick, even," she paused, unable to continue, "even what? Maya pressed, even die," Dr. Vasquez finished quietly. "At my last hospital, there was a young resident who worked closely with me for months. He started having headaches, then fatigue, then he just faded away. He's in a long-term care facility now, barely aware of his surroundings. The doctors call it early-onset dementia, but I know what really happened." Maya felt overwhelmed by the weight of this revelation. "Why are you telling me this?" Dr. Vasquez looked directly into Maya's eyes. "Because you're different. In all these years, you're the first person who's been immune to my effect. Not just immune, you actually get stronger when we touch. I don't understand it, but I've never experienced anything like it." Maya stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot below. "This is crazy. You're talking about something that shouldn't be possible. I know how it sounds," Dr. Vasquez said. "But you've felt it too, haven't you? The energy, the strength, the way you feel after we work together." Maya couldn't deny it. The evidence was undeniable. Her improved health, her increased energy. The way she felt completely rejuvenated after every surgery with Dr. Vasquez. But accepting this explanation meant accepting that the world was far stranger than she had ever imagined. "What happens now?" Maya asked, still facing the window. "I don't know," Dr. Vasquez admitted. "I've never had anyone to talk to about this before. I've been carrying this burden alone for 2 decades. But with you, for the first time, I feel like I might not be a monster." Maya turned back to face the doctor. "You're not a monster. You're trying to help people." "But at what cost?" Dr. Vasquez asked. "How many innocent people have suffered because of what I am? How many lives have I shortened just by existing?" The The women sat in silence for several minutes, both lost in thought. Maya was trying to process everything she had learned, while Dr. Vasquez seemed relieved to finally have someone who understood her secret. "There's something else," Dr. Vasquez said finally. "Since we've been working together, my abilities have become stronger, much stronger. I can heal patients in ways I never thought possible. It's like you're amplifying what I can do." Maya felt a mixture of excitement and fear. "What does that mean for me?" "I don't know," Dr. Vasquez replied honestly. "But I think we're connected now, in a way I don't fully understand. And I'm not sure either of us can go back to the way things were before." As Maya left the hospital that night, she realized her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a nurse. She was part of something bigger, something that defied explanation. The question was whether this new reality would be a blessing or a curse. The weeks following Dr. Vasquez's revelation changed everything for Maya. What started as curiosity had become something much more powerful, a craving she couldn't ignore. Every morning, she would wake up thinking about when she would next work. With Dr. Vasquez, the anticipation made her heart race with excitement. Maya found herself volunteering for extra shifts, picking up overtime hours she didn't need, all just to be near the doctor. When their hands touched during procedures, the rush of energy was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was better than coffee, better than exercise, better than any natural high she had ever felt. Dr. Vasquez seemed to be experiencing the same pull. She would appear at Maya's station with medical charts, asking for her opinion on cases that didn't really require nursing input. During surgery, she would position herself so their arms would brush against each other. The contact was always brief, always professional, but Maya could see the relief in the doctor's eyes afterward. The transformation in both women was remarkable. Maya's energy levels soared to incredible heights. She could work 16-hour shifts without feeling tired. Her reflexes became faster, her thinking clearer. Even her memory improved. She could recall medical procedures and patient information with perfect accuracy. Dr. Vasquez, meanwhile, was achieving medical miracles that had the entire hospital buzzing. A patient with terminal cancer went into complete remission after her surgery. A child with severe brain trauma woke up from a coma with no lasting effects. An elderly man with multiple organ failure walked out of the hospital completely healthy. Word of these extraordinary recoveries spread beyond Riverside Hospital. Medical journals began calling for interviews. Other hospitals requested consultations. The hospital administrator, Dr. Peterson, was practically glowing with pride as he talked about their rising reputation. "Whatever you two are doing," he told Maya and Dr. Vasquez during a staff meeting, "keep it up. Our success rates have never been higher." Maya felt a surge of pride, but she also noticed something troubling. The other nurses in the room looked exhausted. Several had called in sick recently and had requested transfers to different departments. During procedures with Dr. Vasquez, Maya watched as her colleagues would start the day energetic but looking drained and confused. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Maya realized that while she was getting stronger from her connection with Dr. Vasquez, everyone else around them was paying the price. The doctor's abilities seemed to be growing more powerful, and the drain on nearby staff was becoming more severe. Despite this knowledge, Maya couldn't bring herself to stay away. The feeling she got from working with Dr. Vasquez was addictive. She felt alive in a way she had never experienced before. Colors seemed brighter, sounds clearer, and she felt capable of anything. Dr. Vasquez was struggling with similar feelings. During a quiet moment in the supply closet, she confided in Maya about her growing dependence on their connection. "I've never felt this balance before," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "For 20 years, I've felt like a vampire, constantly draining the life from everyone around me. But when I'm with you, I feel normal, like I'm not a monster anymore." Maya understood completely. She had begun to dread the days when Dr. Vasquez wasn't scheduled to work. Without their connection, she felt ordinary, mundane, like a shadow of her true self. The regular world seemed gray and boring compared to the vibrant reality she experienced. When they were together, their partnership in the operating room became legendary. They moved together like dancers, anticipating each other's needs without speaking. Procedures that normally took hours were completed in half the time. Their success rate climbed to nearly 100%, something that should have been impossible. But Maya started noticing changes in herself that went beyond increased energy. Her empathy, always strong as a nurse, was becoming overwhelming. She could sense the emotional state of patients from across the room. She knew when someone was lying, when they were scared, when they were hiding pain. During one particularly difficult surgery, Maya found herself feeling the patient's fear and pain as if it were her own. She had to step back from the operating table, overwhelmed by the intensity of the connection. Dr. Vasquez noticed immediately and placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. The touch calmed Maya instantly, but she realized something significant was happening to her. "I think I'm changing," Maya told Dr. Vasquez later. "I can feel things I've never felt before. It's like I'm becoming more sensitive to everyone around me." Dr. Vasquez nodded knowingly. "I wondered if that might happen. My abilities seem to be affecting you, but in reverse, instead of draining you. They're enhancing your natural empathy and intuition." Maya wasn't sure if this was good or bad. The heightened sensitivity was useful in medical situations, but it was also exhausting. She could feel the sadness of families waiting for news about their loved ones, the frustration of overworked doctors, the pain of patients throughout the hospital. Meanwhile, Dr. Vasquez was becoming increasingly dependent on Maya's presence. She would become agitated when Maya took breaks, and she seemed physically uncomfortable when they were apart for too long. Maya noticed that the doctor would develop headaches and tremors. When they hadn't touched for several hours, the hospital staff began to whisper about their unusual partnership. Some called it dedication. Others called it obsession. Maya's sister Rosa visited her at work one day and was shocked by what she saw. "You look different," Rosa said, studying Maya's face. "You're glowing, but there's something else. You seem intense, like you're not entirely yourself anymore." Maya brushed off her sister's concerns, but privately she was beginning to worry. She was sleeping less, eating less, and spending all her time either at the hospital or thinking about being at the hospital. Her old friends complained that she never had time for them anymore. Her apartment felt like just a place to shower and change clothes. Dr. Vasquez was experiencing similar isolation. She had no friends outside of work, no hobbies, no life beyond the hospital. But unlike Maya, she had been living this way for years. For her, the connection with Maya felt like salvation, not addiction. During a particularly challenging night shift, they worked together on 3 major surgeries. Each time they touched, Maya felt the familiar rush of power. But this time it was accompanied by something new, a sense of completeness, as if she had found the missing piece of herself. Dr. Vasquez seemed to experience the same feeling after the 3rd surgery. She looked at Maya with an expression of wonder and fear. "I don't think I can do this without you anymore," she said quietly. "I don't think I want to." Maya realized she felt the same way. The thought of working without Dr. Vasquez, of returning to her old life, seemed impossible. They had become something together that neither could be alone. But as she looked around the hospital at the increasingly exhausted staff, at the colleagues who were transferring away, at the pattern of illness and fatigue that followed in their wake, Maya began to understand that their partnership came with a terrible cost. The question was whether the lives they were saving were worth the price everyone else was paying, and whether she was still the same person she had been before this all began, or if she had become something else entirely. 3 months had passed since Maya first discovered Dr. Vasquez's secret, and the changes in her life were becoming impossible to hide. What had started as enhanced energy and clarity had evolved into something far more complex and frightening. Maya could now sense illness in people before they even knew they were sick. She would walk past a patient in the hallway and suddenly know they had an infection brewing, or that their blood pressure was dangerously high. The ability was useful in her work, but it was also overwhelming. Maya found herself constantly bombarded by the emotions and physical sensations of everyone around her. In the cafeteria, she could feel the grief of a family who had just lost their father. In the elevator, she sensed the anxiety of a young doctor taking his first solo surgery. The hospital, once a place of healing and hope, had become a storm of human suffering that she couldn't escape. Dr. Vasquez noticed Maya's struggle and tried to help, but her own dependence on their connection was becoming alarming. If Maya worked a shift without her, Dr. Vasquez would develop severe headaches and tremors. Her hands would shake so badly she couldn't perform surgery. She had started showing up at Maya's apartment unannounced, claiming she needed to discuss patient cases. But Maya could see the desperation in her eyes. "I can't function without you anymore," Dr. Vasquez admitted one evening as they sat in Maya's living room. "I know it's not healthy, but when we're apart, I feel like I'm dying inside." Maya understood the feeling all too well. She had tried taking a vacation day the week before, but by noon she was so restless and anxious that she came back to work early. Being away from Dr. Vasquez felt like being disconnected from a vital part of herself. Their obsession with each other was affecting their relationships with everyone else. Maya's sister Rosa had organized what she called an intervention with their mother and several close friends. They gathered in Maya's apartment, all wearing expressions of worry and concern. "You're not the same person anymore," Rosa said, tears in her eyes. "You used to call me every day. Now I don't hear from you for weeks. Mom says you missed her birthday dinner because you were working again." Maya wanted to explain, but how could she tell them the truth? How could she say that she had become part of something supernatural, something that made her feel more alive than she had ever felt before? Instead, she made excuses about being busy at work, about pursuing her career. But even she could hear how hollow her words sounded. Her heightened empathy made the confrontation unbearable. She could feel her family's pain, their confusion, their fear that they were losing her. The emotions hit her like waves, making her dizzy and nauseous. She had to excuse herself from the room, leaving her loved ones even more concerned about her mental state. Dr. Vasquez was facing similar isolation, but she had been alone for so long that she barely remembered what normal relationships felt like. Her entire world had become centered on the hospital and her connection with Maya. She had no friends, no hobbies, no life outside of their supernatural partnership. Maya began to suspect that their miraculous healing abilities were hiding a darker truth. She started paying closer attention to the patterns around Dr. Vasquez, and what she discovered made her stomach turn. Every hospital where Dr. Vasquez had worked showed the same troubling history. Initial periods of remarkable medical success, followed by mysterious staff illnesses, unexplained deaths, and high turnover rates. Late one night, Maya accessed the hospital's personnel records and found the pattern she had been dreading. At Dr. Vasquez's previous hospital, 3 nurses had been hospitalized for exhaustion and depression after working closely with her. One had never recovered and was now in a long-term care facility. Another had taken early retirement due to chronic fatigue that doctors couldn't explain. The evidence was undeniable, but Maya found herself making excuses. These people were collateral damage in a greater mission to save lives. Dr. Vasquez wasn't intentionally hurting anyone. They were healing patients who would otherwise die. Surely that justified some unfortunate side effects. But Maya's enhanced empathy made it impossible to ignore the suffering around her. She could feel the exhaustion of her colleagues, the confusion of nurses who couldn't understand why they felt so drained after working certain shifts. She watched as bright, energetic medical students became pale and listless after spending time near Dr. Vasquez. The breaking point came during a staff meeting when Dr. Vasquez announced she was taking on additional responsibilities. She would be leading a new program for the hospital's most difficult cases, which meant working with more staff members and having contact with more patients. Maya watched the faces of her colleagues as they received this news. Some looked pleased. Dr. Vasquez's reputation for miraculous recoveries was hospital-wide, but others looked worried, and Maya could sense their fear. They didn't understand what was happening to them, but they knew something was wrong. After the meeting, Maya confronted Dr. Vasquez in her office. "You have to tell me the truth," she said, closing the door behind her, "about your previous hospitals, about what really happens to the people who work with you." Dr. Vasquez's face went pale. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, slowly, she began to tell Maya the full story. "I've been lying to you," she said, quietly, "not about my abilities, but about the extent of them. I don't just absorb pain and illness from patients. I can manipulate life force itself. I can take it from some people and give it to others. I can store it, redirect it, even enhance it." Maya felt her heart racing. "What are you saying?" "The patients we've been healing," Dr. Vasquez continued, "they're not just recovering from their own strength. They're being healed with energy I've taken from other people. The elderly patients who die peacefully in their sleep. The staff members who get sick and never recover. Their life forces being transferred to the patients we save." The room seemed to spin around Maya. "You're saying you're taking people's lives to save others?" "I'm saying I've been playing a role I never wanted," Dr. Vasquez replied. "I thought I was helping, but I've been making impossible choices about who lives and who dies. I've been a killer disguised as a healer." Maya backed away from the desk, her mind reeling. Everything she thought she knew about their partnership, about the good they were doing, had been built on a lie. The miraculous recoveries, the medical breakthroughs, the sense of purpose she had felt, all of it was tainted by the knowledge that innocent people were paying the price. "How many?" Maya whispered. "I don't know," Dr. Vasquez said, tears streaming down her face. "I stopped counting years ago. I told myself it was for the greater good, that saving young lives was worth the cost of older ones. But the truth is, I became addicted to the power, and now I've made you an accomplice." Maya realized that she was standing at a crossroads. She could walk away from Dr. Vasquez and try to return to her normal life, or she could accept the terrible truth and figure out how to live with it. But as she looked at the woman who had changed her life forever, she knew that neither of them would ever be the same again. The revelation about Dr. Vasquez's true abilities left Maya feeling like her world had collapsed. For days, she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything except the terrible knowledge that she had been part of something monstrous. Every patient they had saved, every miracle recovery, had come at the cost of innocent lives. She felt sick thinking about how proud she had been of their work together. Maya tried to stay away from Dr. Vasquez, but the separation was agony for both of them. Dr. Vasquez began showing signs of serious withdrawal, severe headaches, tremors, and a grayish pallor that made her look years older. She could barely perform routine procedures, and Maya watched from a distance as the doctor struggled to maintain her composure during surgeries. But Maya was suffering too. Without their connection, she felt hollow and empty, like a part of her soul was missing. Her enhanced abilities faded, leaving her feeling ordinary and disconnected from the world around her. The vibrant colors and sharp clarity she had grown accustomed to disappeared, replaced by a dull, gray existence that felt unbearable. It was during this painful separation that Maya made a discovery that changed everything. While researching Dr. Vasquez's condition in the hospital's medical library, she found references to similar cases in historical documents. What she learned gave her hope for the first time in weeks. Maya wasn't just immune to Dr. Vasquez's draining abilities, she possessed a complementary power. Where Dr. Vasquez absorbed and manipulated life force, Maya could generate and restore it. They weren't predator and prey, as Maya had feared. They were two halves of a complete system, designed to balance each other. The discovery explained why Maya felt stronger when they touched, why her empathic abilities had enhanced, and why their medical successes had been so remarkable. Together, they could heal without taking from others. But the process required both of them working in harmony. Maya rushed to find Dr. Vasquez, her heart pounding with excitement and relief. She found the doctor in her office, looking pale and exhausted, struggling to review patient charts with shaking hands. "I figured it out," Maya said, bursting through the door. "I know why I'm different. I know why we work together." Dr. Vasquez looked up with hope in her tired eyes. What did you find? Maya explained her research, showing Dr. Vasquez the historical documents and medical theories she had discovered. As she spoke, she could see the doctor's strength beginning to return, just from their proximity to each other. If this is true, Dr. Vasquez said slowly, it means we don't have to hurt anyone. We could heal people using our combined abilities, without taking life force from others. But there's a catch, Maya continued. The connection has to be permanent. We would be bound together, unable to function apart. No normal relationships, no independent lives. We would become something beyond human, dedicated entirely to healing others. Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. And if we don't do this, if we try to live separately, I think we'll both waste away. Maya said honestly, you'll lose your abilities entirely, and I'll lose whatever I've become. We'll go back to being ordinary people, but we'll never feel whole again. The weight of the decision pressed down on both of them. Maya thought about her family, her sister Rosa, her mother, the normal life she would be giving up forever. She thought about the possibility of marriage, children, a quiet retirement someday. All of that would be impossible if she chose to bind herself permanently to Dr. Vasquez. But she also thought about the patients they could save, the miracles they could perform without hurting innocent people. She thought about the purpose she had felt during their time working together, the sense that she was part of something greater than herself. Dr. Vasquez was struggling with similar thoughts. She had spent 20 years in isolation, accidentally hurting everyone she came close to. The chance to use her abilities without causing harm was everything she had dreamed of. But the cost was enormous. I can't ask you to give up your life for this. Dr. Vasquez said finally, you have family, friends, a future ahead of you. I've already lost all of that, but you still have a choice. Maya reached across the desk and took Dr. Vasquez's hand. The moment their skin touched, both women felt the familiar surge of energy and connection. Maya's enhanced empathy returned instantly, and she could feel Dr. Vasquez's relief and gratitude flooding through their bond. What if we tried to find a middle ground? Maya suggested. What if we worked together, but tried to maintain some independence? Maybe the connection doesn't have to be all or nothing. They decided to test this theory carefully. Over the next few weeks, they experimented with their abilities, trying to find a balance that would allow them to heal patients, without completely sacrificing their individual lives. They discovered that they could work together effectively, for several hours at a time, then separate for short periods without serious consequences. The results were encouraging. They successfully performed several complex surgeries, healing patients completely without any negative effects on the hospital staff. Maya's family noticed that she seemed more like herself again, though still different from the person she had been before meeting Dr. Vasquez. But the partial connection wasn't sustainable. Both women found themselves constantly thinking about the other, counting the hours until they could work together again. The pull between them grew stronger each day, and Maya realized that fighting it was causing them both unnecessary suffering. The final decision came during a crisis. A bus accident brought dozens of critically injured patients to the hospital, overwhelming the emergency department. Maya and Dr. Vasquez were called in to handle the most severe cases, and they worked together for 18 straight hours, saving lives that would have been lost under normal circumstances. As they finished treating the last patient, both women were exhausted but exhilarated. They had saved every single person brought in from the accident, something that should have been impossible. But more importantly, they had done it without harming anyone in the process. This is who we're meant to be, Dr. Vasquez said as they sat in the break room, still covered in surgical scrubs. This is our purpose. Maya nodded, finally understanding what she had been fighting against. I've been afraid of losing myself, but maybe I was meant to become something more. That night, Maya made her choice. She went to Dr. Vasquez's apartment and found the doctor waiting for her, as if she had known this moment was coming. I want to do this, Maya said. I want to commit fully to what we can become together. Dr. Vasquez stood up, tears in her eyes. Are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure, Maya replied. But I want to do it right. I want to tell my family the truth, or as much of it as they can understand. I want to say goodbye to my old life properly. Maya spent the next week having difficult conversations with her loved ones. She couldn't tell them about the supernatural aspects of her situation, but she explained that she had found her calling in a way that would require major life changes. Her sister Rosa was hurt and confused, but eventually she accepted that Maya had to follow her own path. On a quiet Sunday evening, Maya and Dr. Vasquez met in the hospital chapel. They sat together in the empty room, holding hands as they formally committed to their shared destiny. They promised to use their abilities ethically to help those who needed healing, and to support each other through whatever challenges lay ahead. The change was immediate and profound. Maya felt her consciousness expand to include Dr. Vasquez's thoughts and feelings while maintaining her own identity. Their abilities merged seamlessly, creating a healing power unlike anything either had experienced alone. 6 months later, Maya and Dr. Vasquez had left Riverside Hospital to establish a small clinic in a remote mountain town. They treated patients who couldn't afford medical care elsewhere, performing miracles that brought people from hundreds of miles away. They had found a way to use their gifts that felt right, helping those who needed it most while living simply and quietly. Maya missed her old life sometimes, but she had never felt more fulfilled. She and Dr. Vasquez had become something beyond friendship, beyond romance, beyond any relationship she had known before. They were partners in the truest sense, bound together by purpose and power, dedicated to healing a world that desperately needed their gifts. On quiet evenings, they would sit on the porch of their clinic, watching the sunset over the mountains, and feeling grateful for the strange path that had brought them together. They had given up their normal lives, but in return, they had found something extraordinary, a chance to make a real difference in the world, together.